What's up, upstanders? Dr. O here, and sharing my thoughts about everything going on with all this boycott versus boycott and all of this stuff. And man, so look, let's just get right to it. There's a lot of things I want to get to. First of all, I'm glad that the conversation is taking place. For months, I've been like, "Where's the conversations about boycotts and boycotts and organizations to support? Like, where is it?" And I saw Reverend Al Sharpton like last week say something like, "We're gonna meet and have a 90-day plan." I'm like, we don't need 90 days to figure this out, right? But I'm glad there's a car, and I know people are all over with the different opinions and thoughts, but I'm glad they're having a conversation. That people are having a conversation. Here are a few things that I feel like are bothering me. Number one, and Roland Martin brought this up, which I thought was really powerful. First question I have is, are other non-black groups having this conversation as well? Because when you look at like the Defense Intelligence Agency, they just talked about they're going to get rid of like all programs, Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Indigenous, Native American, like everything, Holocaust Observance Day. And so I'm wondering, like, are other groups, when it comes to these corporations rolling back DEI efforts, are they also having a conversation about what they're going to do going forward? Because my concern is that black people are going to do all of the heavy lifting and then other groups are going to get over. And I've seen this historically when you look at things like how we fought in 1968 to get the immigration laws changed because there was a quota on numbers of people that can come into this country who weren't white. Like we got that change, which led to an influx of more immigrants from places like India, and like all things that are great because I'm about diversity and inclusion, right? I'm actually about that life. But we see that a lot of these other groups came in, and some of them acted just as racist towards us as black people. You look at things like, the 14th Amendment, helped get rid of the Chinese Exclusion Act. It helped usher in the gay marriage equality. Like so many different things that we fought for end up benefiting other people more. People thought affirmative action benefited us more. It was not a law or an act, it's a policy. White women benefited more. Government contracts, white women benefited more. So, like, are these other groups going to be part of this conversation? Or is it just going to be us? Many of us are not expecting much, but I would love to be proven wrong on this. We can move in solidarity because when you add all of these different communities, there are more of us than there are MAGA folks, right? So why not move in solidarity like we have in other times throughout history, right? It has happened. I'm just saying I'm not seeing that now. The second thing regards what Tabitha Brown has been saying, and I don't know if Tabitha Brown has changed her positions or anything. This isn't about Tabitha Brown. This is about the aspect of the conversation that Tabitha Brown, who's a supplier to Target, the conversation that she has encouraged. Because one of the first videos that came out from her was saying something to the effect of, if you're going to boycott organizations like Target, you're going to hurt people like me, the black suppliers. And I'm a small business owner. I understand what she's talking about as it relates to that. So some people are saying, yo, boycott Target. Other people are saying, no, buy black products more from Target to show them our power. And a couple of things come to mind about this. Number one, are there any suppliers like the Tabitha Brown types who are actually, do they have any demands on Target? Because it seems like their demands is just on the consumers, which is problematic. And are any of these brands going to pull their products themselves? Because the company has said, we don't want you and we're not interested. And if they said they're going to discontinue these programs, then that means that eventually it's going to be cut. So are any of these suppliers to companies like Target and Walmart making any principled stance about, you don't want me, I'm going to pull my stuff and go somewhere else? I don't know. I was just talking to Alan Orr, and he was talking about a lot of other communities, Latino communities and the like, have a lot of their own community stores. And in many black communities, we don't really have that beyond like the restaurants and things like that. Do we have an infrastructure in place with the stores to be able to support something like that? This is a question that needs to be had. But I do feel like there should be more of a demand on the suppliers, on these companies that are saying that we're going to cut you, right? Because there's something fundamentally wrong. Something doesn't sit well with my psyche. And again, I don't have a definitive answer on this. I'm here for the conversation. I would love to hear what you all think. But something about having a company say they don't want us anymore, they're rolling back all of our stuff, and then we spend with them in record numbers, There's something psychologically backwards about that that doesn't sit well with me. And so, for those who are saying we're going to boycott outright, so my question becomes, okay, what's the plan? And so, when I see people like Reverend Al Sharpton, who knows about these things, and people like the Roland Martin, if you see Roland Martin segment on the boycott, like, we need to listen to the elders, people who have been there, economists who may not be elders but study this and understand. We got a lot of young activists who breathe and live activism. Everybody has meaningful things to contribute to this conversation. So if we go the boycott route, what's going to be the ask? What's going to be the demand? What are we willing to do as it relates to supporting? I was just talking about Target as a company to support in one of my other interviews, and then like literally the next day this happened. So even with the boycott, what's going to be the demand there as well? Is it going to be we're going to do it for 90 days? Are we going to say, unless you improve XYZ, get new DEI efforts, increase your members of the board, etc.? What's it going to be? There needs to be a plan as it relates to that as we talk about moving collectively. Because really, at the end of the day, what are you going to do when people tell you they don't want you? What is your reaction going to be? Is it going to be kind of like, was it Stockholm syndrome or whatever it's called? Like stay with the person who's mentally or physically, abusing you or treating you wrong? I feel like we've worked hard enough in this country, particularly as Black people, to be able to demand more. I grew up seeing all of these stories talking about if Black people were a country, we'd be like the 10th largest country in the world in terms of wealth and income. So we have the money to make different demands, and we should do that. So again, to be clear, this is not about condemning Tabitha Brown or propping up Tabitha Brown or any other Black supplier. I appreciate what Tabitha Brown has brought to the conversation because we need to understand all of these things. And so what I'm sharing are my overall thoughts about the ideas of boycotts, Black suppliers, where they're putting their goods, where they're not putting their goods, and what we can do to be better. And I'm calling on everybody to have this conversation. One of the reasons that these federal aid letters were rescinded wasn't because of what Democrats are doing, but it was because of what everybody was doing. People from all backgrounds were standing up against this. Same thing in the Department of Defense with the Tuskegee Airmen and the WASP celebrations or education lessons that were going to be taken out. Uproar. It got changed. So whatever it was we need collective uproar. And we need to move as one. We need to move as a community to the best of our ability. And so I'm calling on everybody who wants to create these communities where everybody can be celebrated and not tolerated. Let's have these discussions. I'm here for it. And when people, and again, Tabitha Brown is the one who went viral of it, so that's why she's the one who's coming most to mind. When people come out, you don't like her on speaker, we can't condemn people, diss people, call them this or all of that. We have to build off of each other and support and praise each other for wanting to have these conversations. And that's what I'm here for, and I hope you're here for it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments so we can actually do something proactive and not always just reactive. Now, we're obviously in a situation when we got to be reactive because these policies have been made. What are we going to do about it? Like the late Dr. Joe Madison said. And for those, suppliers that may have to pull their stuff, Dr. Joe Madison also said the difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. Maybe some sacrifices are going to have to be made. I'm not the one to say who to do what, but if we really want real change, we got to be willing to put some stuff on the table and make some sacrifices as well. I'm here for that conversation. Let's continue building. Peace.